Williams breaks a hole. Williams and a record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame. Touchback. Ricky Williams, touchdown.
Young from the shotgun. Back to throw. Vince looks. Under pressure. He'll tuck it in run. Vince to the 5. Young. Touchdown, Texas. Touchdown, Vince Young. He's done it again.
Longhorn Nation, we're back.
Welcome into another edition of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast. I am your host, Mac Delatson, and joining me on this live edition for the first time, and it's been a minute, Patrick Davis. Patrick, how's it going, man? It's been a while. It's good to be back with you.
It's good to be back, buddy, and doing this again. It's fun. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've done it, and it's fun. Now you have to host. You have to do the heavy lifting. I just get to sit around and make jokes. It's fun.
I know he carried me for so long, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I first started out. Learned a lot from this guy over the last year, so I'm excited to try and do it my way this time. Won't be as good as the way he did it, but it'll be pretty good. Patrick, huge win for Texas last night against BYU. Obviously, taking down a potential number 1 overall draft pick in Dybantsa is one thing, but getting the round of 64 win, I mean, this is why you brought Sean Miller in at the beginning of the year, right? Rodney Terry couldn't get past the first 4. You expect to have a different thing with Sean Miller, and now you kind of have that. You move on to the round of 32 to face Gonzaga. But before we get into Gonzaga, what were your thoughts on the BYU matchup? Because I was really impressed with a few different things that Texas was able to do, including Tremont Mark's defense, 4 blocks. I thought that was incredible. He really came to play, hit some big shots, and obviously Modest Voikatitis was just dominant.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a team that all season long we haven't been sure if they're going to be who's going to show up. And, the end of the season was rough, and that team didn't seem like once they kind of felt like they were in the tournament, it felt like they didn't play hard enough. And now they're playing hard again, and they are playing good defense, and we're starting to see them go in. They had some good matchups. This is a really good matchup for Modest, because he's able to go inside and be the biggest guy on the court and go in there and kind of get what he gets done. He gets 23 points in the game and becomes a big piece of it, which, by the way, we'll get into in a minute, but I've tried to figure out where his free throw went wrong, and I can't quite pinpoint it. But overall, we saw Modest be a really good player for them. He had a big block late in the game as well. So everyone kind of found out where they were, and it helped that BYU was really relying on one player. Their second best player is out. Dybantsa has to be the guy, and he was, but they were able to keep everybody else out. So it reminded me a little bit of what you were playing with Texas last year, where if you could stop Trey, you could stop Texas. Or if you let Trey go and stop everybody else, you could stop Texas, but you couldn't let Trey and another guy go off. And that's what Texas did in this game. They took that model and said, okay, we just can't allow anyone else to go off. We know this guy's better than all of us. He's going to be really good. This guy may be the best player in college basketball. So we're going to go ahead and he's going to score his points. Don't foul him a bunch. Don't put him on the line a ton. Don't get everybody in foul trouble, which, by the way, that was another thing to point out is this team no one had over 3 fouls for Texas in this game, which when we get to Gonzaga is going to be a huge point of emphasis. But no one really have to sit out a bunch of minutes. No one was really in major foul trouble for Texas. It lets them have the game that they had, which was taking control, having some moments where it would get a little bit too close, and they'd be able to push back out again.
Yeah, and obviously Sean Miller has a little bit of experience in that arena. Having faced Trey Johnson last year in the first 4, he knew the model, and I think he did a wonderful job of deploying that. There were a few issues, obviously, that Texas had in that game overall. You point to Modest's free throw shooting. That's something we'll talk about. I still am not so sure about Simeon Wilcher and Nick Cody. They made some interesting plays during that game. But overall, I was very impressed with the effort. And I think that, it really helps that the way that they ended the season, it's like it felt like they really had their backs against the wall. Like it was kind of a put up or shut up moment in the first 4 against NC State. And then obviously they get through that one. They come through against BYU and they kind of dominated the game, especially in the second half, which isn't something that I necessarily expected from a team that really struggles defensively. It has throughout the season. The offense has been pretty good for the most part throughout the whole year, but the defense has been atrocious. They're able to lock down basically everybody else. And it was really great to see. In terms of like, where this has come, Patrick, from I remember like when we were doing Open Gym, we started the season and you were like, this team might not win an SEC game. And now they're
going into January. I thought that.
They're
a wildly different team in 2026 than they were in 2025. It's a weird thing to say, but they're a wildly different team.
Yeah. And that's kind of my next question for you is like, where did this thing change? How did it change? And how have they been able to kind of sustain that up until now? Like moving on to face a really good Gonzaga team.
I mean, I think the turning point was when Sean Miller realized he didn't have his team and he better coach this team. And it felt like he just kept trying to put, a round peg in a square hole for the entire first half of the season. And they got to SEC play and he went, you know what, Tremont Mark probably should shoot some twos. And you know what, we should just let Dalen Swain kind of run this offense a little bit more. And we should let Jordan Pope get a heat check. And if he's going, let him go. And then if he's not, tell him to pass the ball. We should get the ball into Modest Voikatitis and then just try and get him the ball as he's running to the basket. Don't let him have as many post-up opportunities where they can double on him. Get him the ball moving to the basket. And I think those things, when he found out the strengths and the abilities of what they could do, you saw this team start to grow into what they were going to be. And when they are all doing that and when the opportunities present themselves, this team plays really well. The problem you had at the end of the season was teams started to figure out some of those pieces, which is stop fronting Modest. Let him get the ball in the post and just double him every time. He's not passing. He's never going to pass he's not going to pass the basketball. You could put 5 guys on him and he's going to try and go up with that basketball. So, and I think teams know that. We unfortunately saw at the end of the game, they started doing hack-a-Modest. We saw that at the end of the game. He was 3 of 11 on free throws. So I went back before the show, before we did this today, and I was like, I don't remember his free throw being this bad. And I went back and you watched all non-conference, shoots a free throw regularly. And then beginning of SEC play, and about where Texas struggles started, about that last 2 weeks of the season, 2-3 weeks, he started going on the same free throws. You can watch some of them, and he'll shoot his first one, and he doesn't use his wrist. It's an arm motion. It's a shot put. And then he'll do the second one, and he'll flick his wrist again.
That's
and when he flicks his wrist, he's probably a 60% free throw shooter. So not great, but maybe 60, 65%. So not great, but not bad for a big guy. And maybe he could be even a little bit better earlier in the season, but he's all right there. When he's shot putting it, 10% free throw shooter. And so we just see that difference of like, I don't know what went wrong in his brain where what changed of what he's doing, but they need to fix that, because if Gonzaga is anywhere, if it's a close game at all, they're going to have to pull Modest out because they're just going to start fouling.
Yeah.
Like every time he touches the ball, because it's stupid not to at that point.
Yeah. And I think Texas got like a 17-point lead at one point, and then BYU just started chipping away. Yeah. Like I kind of had stopped watching the game for a minute so I could do some other things. Like we were putting up some stories and get, for our other sites and all that stuff. And I looked up and I was like, oh my God, it's a 6-point game. Like I got to lock back in. And I couldn't really figure out what happened. And then had anything else, like if BYU had their second player in this game, it probably wouldn't have been that much of a difference to begin with. But I mean, Texas almost blew this thing, and that would have been an absolute disaster. Luckily, they hold on. Luckily, Sean Miller now already has more wins than Shaka Smart in the NCAA tournament. It's a good thing. It's a good way to end or to start to end your first season. I don't expect them to go much farther, but this matchup, and we'll get into Gonzaga now, Patrick. This matchup is pretty interesting because Gonzaga is kind of facing some similar issues that BYU faced with injuries.
Yeah, and for the record, they've won 1 game in the tournament. They won 0 games last year. The playing game does not count. Stop counting that as a tournament win. You're not in it. 64 teams. That's what matters. because you can't say, well, we won 3 games and they were like, oh, you're in the Elite Eight. And you go, no, we were in the Sweet 16. Go, no, that's not how it works, because you can't win more games than everybody else. 64, even playing field.
I'm really glad that you said that, because that's a point that I've been trying to make over the last few days. It's like, yesterday when we did our show, I was like, okay, Texas is now officially in the NCAA tournament, and I got a little flack for it. It's like, no,
look, I get it, but again, this is the thing. We say this about football all the time, Matt. The standard is the standard.
Yeah,
and the standard at Texas is not, we made the tournament because we won a play-in game. That's not the standard. The fact they lost, 5 out of the last 6 to have to be in that play-in game at all, and maybe shouldn't have even been in it. Now they've won, and so they clearly are playing better. But the way they were playing down the stretch, you can go, there's probably 30 more teams that were playing better at the end of the season than Texas was. Now, their record, their resume overall should have put them in. I'm not going to go on that debate, but I am going to say that, when you go in the play game, that doesn't count. It's not a win. You don't get to go that the teams – Howard didn't win a game in the tournament. They didn't.
Yeah.
They won a play-in game, and that's awesome for them. And they got to be in the tournament, which is awesome, because the difference of Texas not making the tournament and making the tournament is big. There's a big point of this for what Sean Miller is going to be able to do to try and get the funding and the NIL and everything they need going forward, showing that he is showing the progress through this season of the way it looked, where tickets were going for $6 at the Mood at the end of December. And I mean, I went to the South Carolina game. We paid $8 for tickets.
That's crazy.
And that can't be what you want if you want to have a winning program. And so I think, there's ways to build on this where, for whatever reason, there's plenty of reasons that we know, and some others, but that people were really not bought in on Rodney Terry. And, part of it is he's a lame duck coach, and everybody knew it. It was just kind of there. That CDC never wanted to hire him. He wanted to hire Sean Miller 2 years ago. So for all those reasons, it just lost a lot of steam after Chris Beard. And Sean Miller now, even though he hasn't really been rallying the troops so much of going out on campus and doing all the things to rally up everybody, winning games matters, and winning tournament games when everybody's watching right now, that matters. So it's really big that he gets this win, and it's big that we have Gonzaga now. That is a winnable game. It is not a complete foregone conclusion. Like, we're not playing, if we play Purdue, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. But I really think that, and so you go, the 1 and 2 seeds, those guys are in there. I think Gonzaga, you also got to remember, Gonzaga's second best player, second leading scorer, is out for this game. He's somebody that Texas is not going to have to see. He's another 6'10" guy coming in. Braden Huff is not playing in this game. But you are going to have to worry about, man, and Gonzaga, Graham Ike, man. Graham Ike is going to be a huge factor for what Texas is going to be able to keep on the court, because that dude scores in the paint as much as he wants. Gonzaga leads the NCAA in points in the paint. And we know what Texas does when teams drill the ball inside. They foul.
Yep. And
so playing defense without fouling is my number one. Do you want to have a chance in this game? You can't have Modest and Jalen Swain and Tremont Mark all on the bench with 3 fouls in the first half.
Yeah.
That cannot happen. And if they're just going to pound the ball inside and just try and go right at you, you have to just try and hope that the refs are going to let you play a little bit tougher, and hope that you can get your hands up and just go play.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I don't know how Texas exactly defends Graham Ike, because they've been, even with Modest being 7 foot, whatever he is, they've been very susceptible in the paint, not just because of fouling, just because they don't really have a true rim protecting, big shot blocking guy. Like, I mean, you hope that it would be Modest because he's 7 feet with a really, freaky wingspan, but that's just not his game right now. So, like, how does Texas defend him without fouling? I'm not so sure. Maybe it'll be a similar situation to, AJ Dybantsa, where they just kind of let that guy, he's going to do him, but you got to slow down everybody else. So, like, who are some of the other players that Texas needs to watch out for in this game, in your opinion? Because, Gonzaga's a number 3 seed for a reason. They're a really good basketball team. I know that Huff is out, but they're still 31-3, and that doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, Mario St. Supri is a guy that I'd worry about. He's a 41% three-point shooter. He's a guard that can probably get open on some. He may get matched up. They may be able to flip him onto Jordan Pope at times, and then you're able to get some points that way when everybody's kind of leaning off. But I look, this is really going to be a game for Texas defensively that you do a little bit what you did with BYU, which is try and stop them as much as you can. Try and put up. Don't get in foul trouble. Just try and slow them down and realize you're going to win this game on the offensive end of the basketball court. You're not going to win it on the defensive end. This isn't a defensive juggernaut of a basketball team. So you're going to make some stops, but you want to lower their percentage. If you drop Gonzaga to a 40% field goal shooting team, that's still 40%. It's not great, but it's way better. And then all you got to do is shoot 45%. You got a pretty good shot in this game. And so that you're kind of trying to shoot 5 to 6% better than they shoot. And if you can do that, and then this is another key factor, can't turn the ball over. Gonzaga turns guys over a lot. So you're going to have to really be careful about not turning the ball over. But overall, this is a game that if Texas does get a couple guys going, if Tremont Mark keeps playing at the rate he's been playing at, if maybe we get Dalen Swain to start feeling it a little bit more, because maybe these last couple weeks he hasn't been Dalen Swain, superhero Dalen Swain, because there's been so much emphasis on guarding him. And then, if we get a Jordan Pope game, we don't always get him, but this is, hey, for Jordan Pope, this is the last probably chance you have to have a great outing. Because again, you win this, you go on to play Purdue, and that just becomes a much more different ball game. There's a week of prep before that game as well. You're walking into this game with Gonzaga with a couple days prep. So they're not able to build out a really much more grandiose game plan. They're not able to watch a ton of film on you. Like, they have guys who have watched film on both Texas and BYU before this game. They have that done. But you're not literally having your head coach go sit in and be able to put together the game plan. And that's kind of what you're going to have to use, that element of surprise a little bit, because you see when a team game plans you, BYU said, let's hack them.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, first comment on the live stream, Victor, it's good to see Patrick again too. I totally agree. Thank you for chiming in. So, by the way, speaking of the Gonzaga game, Patrick, Jay Billis, I don't know if I'm sure you saw this, but he predicted Texas to beat Gonzaga and head to the Sweet 16. This was before last night's game. When you first saw that, were you just like, come on, man, like that's insane? Or did you actually see it's like, yeah, this is actually a possibility? Because both of these teams have their issues.
I think Seth Davis had him beating BYU as well, and winning 2 games before they won the first one. So a couple of people did, but that was kind of the thing, is you saw BYU and they were not playing well down the stretch. And they really were. So they did it better than Rutgers did last year, but they spent a lot of money on 2 guys. And then they kind of had a rest of a team. And when you lose one of those 2 guys, it goes down. Rutgers last year had Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. And
I still can't believe they were bad.
And they were bad. They had 2 amazing players and were not good. And BYU's better than that. They have a better system. They have better things going. But when you lose one of those 2 players, that's most of your NIL. It becomes harder, and it became a place where they still could have beaten Texas. They're still a good team, but it became a winnable game. And that's what you say about Gonzaga too. If Braden Huff is there, it becomes a less winnable game, because now you got another 6'10" guy who's going to come down and put you in foul trouble and score in the paint. So it becomes harder the more guys they have on that roster, the more talent you're competing with. We saw it with Duke Siena, right? Where Duke felt no pressure walking into that game, kind of took it too easy, and Siena got up on them early, but late in the game, talent wins. And the talent level is so widely disparate. Like, there's guys, their 8th guy for Duke would have been the best player on Siena. So you just go, the talent was going to win out in the end, even though Duke really just wasn't ready to play. And you kind of, I think now you're getting into past the first round where Gonzaga didn't have a good game against Kennesaw State. They didn't necessarily look very good. They played better down the stretch to pull away and get the win. But it wasn't necessarily an easy game for them. I don't think as easy as they would have wanted it to be. So there's a little bit, but I think they got their wake-up call enough that they're not going to walk into this Texas game and take it as lightly as they took Kennesaw State.
Yeah. And I saw a couple of people on the I think it was Jamal Mashburn maybe on the halftime of last night's game. I don't know if it was Charles Barkley. By the way, Charles Barkley's suit looked awful. Like, can we get this guy a new tailor? Way oversized.
We also not do Charles Barkley and Dick Vitale as a look.
Yeah.
I get it's fun, and I would have loved it if it wasn't my team. The problem was it was my team, and so I was like, this is not what I want when there's a game going on that really matters for what I'm watching, and then they're just having fun.
Yeah, but like a couple of guys on the halftime show last night, they said that Texas had an advantage heading into this game already because they had already played a game against NC State and they were kind of warmed up, whereas BYU is a little cold. Do you think that played any factor into it? Because I'm not so sure if I buy into that or not. I mean it's not like they played a month ago, you know?
No, I mean, I would say they're more tired. I wouldn't go with that. They played in Dayton, Ohio at what they finish at 11 midnight. That they probably get on a plane and go to Portland, Oregon. That's not right down the road. You're changing time zones, and then you have to go play a game. Less than 48 hours later, you're playing an afternoon game. I think that I think you're more. So maybe they're a little, but you're playing on different courts. It's not like it's the same where you're like, okay, we know the building. There's plenty of reasons, and so you could say yes. They went into it. I think that you could put on more of it. They really felt like their back was against the wall, and they had already had that pressure walking in. And BYU was a favorite. They hadn't been in the pressure moment. They hadn't felt March Madness yet of what we've seen in so many of these games that are really close games and fight back. That it takes you a minute to get your bearings when it's not SEC play. It's not conference play. It's way more than non-conference play. But you're like, our season ends if we lose is a wildly different place to try and put somebody out of their misery. And I think BYU thought they could just play a regular game, and Texas came out and just wanted it more early on and, takes that lead at halftime. And taking the lead at halftime, they were able to, make BYU expend too much energy. If you looked at how tired AJ looked at the end of that game, which I get he was carrying BYU on his back, and you're like, he's tired because he's the one fighting that he doesn't want to go home.
Yeah, and he also looked super frustrated too because Tremont Mark was kind of getting into him. Yeah. That was kind of nice to see. You spoke about the travel, and I said this yesterday, but I want you to hear it too because it's a really interesting stat.
Yeah.
Texas had to take a roughly a 7-hour flight to Portland, where they played last night. And they will now play 2 games in 3 days they were going to play 2 games in 3 days from NC State to BYU, which is something that college teams don't have to do very often. And this season, Texas has played, before that game, they had played 6 games that met a similar criteria, playing 2 games in 4 days with travel a day in between. And that excludes back-to-back home games or the Maui Invitational where they didn't have a travel day between games. But in those situations, Texas went 4-2 in the second game with wins over Texas A&M, Georgia, Oklahoma, and LSU. So they were actually really good on short rest and long travel, which is kind of weird. But like,
I don't think it's weird at all. I don't think it's weird at all because I think this is one of my things with Sean Miller. I don't think Sean Miller does enough prep for this team. And I don't know if it's he doesn't know what it is, but we see Sean Miller and this team look kind of like they're just out there playing street ball for a while, and then they make in-game adjustments, and then at halftime they may come out and have some different plans. But a lot of times it doesn't feel like they build a game plan based on who they're playing. And so I think those are some times where he just like go out there and play. Like, again, it doesn't feel like, and I'm really interested to see what Sean Miller's teams start to look like going forward when he builds what he wants to build. But this doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like he walked in and had any idea what he was walking into. And he's got a team that he thought he could mold and they were unmoldable. And now he's just kind of trying to get them best way through. He's got coaches running out on the court halfway through before games. There's so many things going on that it just like I think he's a good coach. It just doesn't feel like this has ever been what he expected it to be walking in. And he's just constantly had to run and change his attitude throughout the season. And that's, I think in these short notice games, he's just able to kind of let guys be guys. and that's when Texas plays really well. I mean, I was still laughing the NC State game. In the post game, Tremont Mark goes, coach drew up the play, and I go, what play did he draw up? That can't get the ball to the guy, have to pass it off a couple times to get it to Mark, and then he takes one of the lowest, one of the worst, analytical shots you can take in a game, which is a foot inside the 3-point line. all those things. There's no way that's what was supposed to happen. I get the ball was supposed to go to Mark, and that was it. Mark, get over there, get to your spot, and take the shot. That's the play, which I get, but I'm sure his spot is probably 3 or 4 feet in. And they play good defense, and he hit the shot. By the way, Wemby hit that same shot last night to win a game, so it was fun to watch it again.
Last night was a great night of basketball, I think, for both of us. Texas, wins against BYU. Wemby hits a that go-ahead shot, and Luka drops 60. Oof. He's been on a tear since his fiance took the kids. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Okay, before we move on to our last segment about the team as a whole, give me a couple of keys to the game offensively for Texas. They've been really good offensively all year in terms of scoring a lot of points, efficiency, all that stuff. But they've I feel like it's kind of been a little what's the word I'm looking for here? I can't really think of the word. It's just they've done it a different way, and I think a lot of it has to do with if Dalen Swain and Tremont Mark are both playing well, and then you add a third guy who plays pretty good offensively, then Texas is
Jordan Pope or somebody like that.
Yeah, then they usually do pretty well. It's kind of an unprecedented, really good offense, I think, in some kind of ways. But regardless, what do you think that Texas has to do against Gonzaga to be successful offensively?
First off, don't turn the ball over. Gonzaga is going to go for a lot of those. You have to be sure-handed with the ball. You can't, dribble too much. Texas gets in trouble with that a lot, of dribbling too much. And, you dribble into traffic, and all it takes is one guy to poke a hand in. I think you're going to want to go to Modest rolling to the basket a lot early and try and get him in there. If they're going to foul him, great. Put him in foul trouble. Get him in foul trouble. Let their starters get in foul trouble trying to foul Modest rolling to the basket. Let Ike get foul trouble. Please put him in foul trouble and get him off the court. So I try and go to that early a lot. And I mean, in reality, this is going to be a difficult game of trying to get to the basket, trying to get into open shots. Gonzaga plays really good 3-point defense. They're pretty good around the basket too. So this could be a Tremont Mark specialty game, getting inside, getting those 2-pointers that are 10-footers, 15-footers that are not that bad of shots. For him to take. They're not analytically great, but overall, they're, if you're able to put points up on the board, you just can't let Gonzaga get in transition. You have to be able to shoot and rebound and at least pressure or rebound enough that they can't outlet that ball and get you on your heels. Because if you're not even, setting up a defense, you have no shot. And so offensively for them, you want to take good shots and, drop back a couple guys after you take it, but try and go and contest for offensive rebounds. But yeah, I mean, I like Modest rolling to the basket still. I know his free throws are a problem. I'm telling you, I don't know what he's doing. He can shoot free throws. This is a thing for people watching it for the first time. They're like, that guy can't shoot free throws. He shot them for 80% of the season. He shot them okay. And in the last 2 to 3 weeks, it's just started to go downhill. And you'll watch. If he shot puts, no good. If the wrist flicks, okay, we're back in action. Even if it misses, you want to see the wrist flick. But yeah, I mean, and then it's Dalen Swain. It's always Dalen Swain. Can he be Dalen Swain again? He was 6 for 12 yesterday, 14 points. It's okay. I'd like to get him closer to 20 and have him have some of those moments, really start to feel it. But you're probably, this is probably not a Cam Heide game. This is probably not a Jordan Pope game just because they're going to guard the 3 well, unless Jordan Pope wants to attack. He can attack well. I'd love to say pass the ball, but we know this is not a team that does that very well. I will give him that 14 assists last night. That's better. That's better than they've had in a lot of games. But Like, there were so many plays that you just watched. There was one I just remember. Jordan Pope comes through, dribbles, draws the whole defense, comes around. Dalen Swain's wide open for three. And Pope turns around to look at the basket. And Swain's defender comes back on him. And then he passes the ball to Swain. And you're like, it's that difference why we're not getting a well-run offense. Because if it's well-run, he comes out, immediately looks up, sees that there's somebody wide open, and goes, I don't have to take the shot. And I think Texas too often says, I have to take that shot. And when you're playing a good defensive team like Purdue, that could get you in a lot of hot water. So I think when you look for the best shot, a lot of times that's not passing stuff up. I'll get on Cam Heide on the opposite, where Cam Heide will have a pretty open three and pass the ball off. You just have to play smart. That's really – Gonzaga is going to play smart. They always do. They're a really well-coached team from Mark Few. They're going to play smart basketball. You can't give away the game. If Texas does not give away this game, very good chance that they're in it at the end of the game.
Okay. I like that. Patrick has such a big basketball brain. I love it. All right. So real quick, final prediction for tonight. Gonzaga is favored by 6.5. ESPN's matchup predictor has Gonzaga with a 74.8% chance to win the game. Over under is at 146.5. I'm going to pick, I'm going to go with my brain instead of my heart. I think Gonzaga edges this one out and Texas ends it in the round of 32. What you got?
Yeah, I do too. Because the way Gonzaga could win this by 20 and they could win it by 2. And yes, Texas can win. But then again, that's a 1/3% chance of all the options. You're not winning by 20. Texas will not win this game by 20. Mm-hmm. They've had a couple games this year. They've kind of ran away with it. I just don't see it against a really good Gonzaga team. I do think they can win. But if I'm putting money on it in my bracket, Gonzaga is winning this game. I think they've already overachieved. So I will put it that I think this Texas team winning that game against BYU kind of already overachieved where we were at in year one. I do think it helps. Now, if they play in weekend 2, then it changes the entire complexion of what the offseason looks like now. It changes a lot of things for Sean Miller. So very much so I'm going to be rooting for Texas. But if I put my money on it, I would probably put it to be Gonzaga. And the line's probably pretty good. So I may put it for Texas to be in there. I'll say Gonzaga by 4. I'll say that. I'll be nice.
Okay.
Say Gonzaga by 4.
Yeah, I'm right around the same area. I think it's like a 4 to 6 point game.
Those are just hard in these moments because you're like, who gets the last shot up? Is it a 4-point game or a 6-point game?
Yeah, right. All right, so you kind of led into my final topic here, Patrick, and I appreciate you staying on with me so long. Patrick Davis, by the way,
we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, my former host on Open Gym. We're back together again, bringing the band back together and we may do this again. Who knows? I like having Patrick on. So, did this season exceed your expectations from a couple of different ways? From where we started at the very beginning, like before first tip of the first game, to when they went on that huge hot streak, won however many games it was in a row, looked like a surefire tournament team. And then at the end of the season, there's kind of 3 different ways you can look at the season, I think. Yeah. Before the season started, I was like, I think that they could probably make the tournament if they play really well, because I think Sean Miller is a really good coach. And then they went on, and then they at the beginning of SEC play, I was like, wow, this team's dog shit. And then we got to, then when they went on a hot streak, I'm like, oh, they're really good again. And now it's and at the end of the season, I was kind of wavering. But I think overall for me, it has certainly exceeded expectations, because I thought they would, before the first tip of the first game, I was like, I think they'll probably either be in the first 4 or barely make the tournament, and then they'll lose in round 1. But they proved me wrong. Have they proved you wrong?
So I'll line it up. From the Sean Miller hire.
Yeah.
From when they hired Sean Miller, they have not exceeded my expectations at all. I don't think they necessarily went lower in certain things they did. Certain things I still have the problem with Sean Miller of I don't think he at all put any work in this offseason, and that pisses me off because I think we could have had a much better roster. I think we could have, changed some things around to make this team a little bit actually more competitive into big games and be a little bit closer. I think we could have. So on that aspect, that I'm still not loving because, and look, I'll say this. If he changes it this offseason and puts in more work this offseason, and next season we come in and we feel good about the team, then great. Sean Miller it was hard for him to make that transition. If he doesn't, then we hired the wrong guy. He's not a program builder. And I'll already be like, we should give him more years. He's going to be a good coach for us. But I don't think he'll ever get us close to winning like a Final Four. No, he could though. But I'll know that this offseason. Like, does he make it? Does he actually turn this program and start to be a program builder, or is he a coach? That's what I want to see this offseason from him. So we didn't see that. He was a coach throughout the offseason. He was a coach who didn't do a great job. So starting the season, probably matched expectations of the early part of the season of we should be a play-in team level team. And then SEC play, once we started playing, you beat Alabama, you start to win some of those games. Then you thought you shouldn't have been a play-in team. So lower than the expectations there. He beat BYU though. It changes things. If he ends up beating Gonzaga, then you sit there and you go, I don't like that we had to take this route. I would have preferred not off-roading it for the end of the season. We could have just been on the highway having a good time. But you decided, no, I know a shortcut through Dayton, Ohio that no one wanted to take. So I think the reality is you could judge it through a lot of things. As a coach, Sean Miller this season has probably been a better grade than he would be as a coach in 2026, where you do have to do so much more. That's really where I'm still at with him of, he's winning me over of winning some of these games. I still I'll watch some of this stuff and go, I don't get what he's coaching, like getting the ball to Tremont Mark. I don't know what that play call is. It's not like, oh, they ran this really great play for their season. Like their season's on the line and they run a play that's just basically ISO ball, but we're not even really going to fully ISO with him. That's not exactly what I would run, but Sean Miller has done well enough. So, if you even all about what I just said, they're right around expectations of they haven't pissed anybody off. I don't think anybody's really mad about it. I think for a first year of a coach, you don't expect him to make a huge run. I don't, even if he would have had a better offseason, I don't think you're really aiming higher than Sweet 16 anyway. Just because it's really hard to turn a team completely around into we don't really have any of the players that are going to get us there. So there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives you can take out of it and a lot of negatives and a lot to learn on for next season. But you still got a game on tomorrow. So there's still another game.
Absolutely. It's kind of crazy to think that if one of those wins in the SEC that were close, like LSU or Texas A&M or, one of those games, Alabama, would have gone the other way and they wouldn't have been able to hold on, we're probably not sitting here having this conversation at all because they probably don't even make the tournament. And especially with the way it ended with that loss to Ole Miss that was just egregious. Everybody knows that I'm a rebel, but I was still pretty pissed off because I was like, I need this team to make the postseason for my bank account for one thing, so we can keep covering this stuff. But
yes,
I'm glad that they were able to make it, and I'm glad that they have an opportunity against Gonzaga. Who knows what's going to happen? Anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. I know that's really cliche, but it's already happened. Didn't High Point beat who they beat yesterday?
High Point beat Wisconsin, by the way, called in my bracket.
Hell yeah, nice. And Kentucky barely holds on against Santa Clara. Duke barely holds on against Siena.
I had Santa Clara winning that one.
Look,
there's realities in this. If you play defense, you have a much better shot to pull off upsets in March Madness. It just is what it is. You can play defense. You can stop some of these teams. It gives you a chance. Now, you have to have scores with defense. That's where you're hoping Sean Miller eventually ends up. I have a guess we'll have some different assistant coaches next season. I can guess one guy off the top of my head that may be a little bit, quick at running out, that maybe isn't going to have his job next season. Who knows?
Imagine if he had gotten the technical foul. If Texas doesn't hits the free throws.
That's a don't board the plane home thing.
Yeah. Can you imagine Sean Miller's, I think his head would have exploded.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying is that literally that guy finds his own way home.
Yeah, it's like leaving Lane Kiffin on the tarmac.
Yeah, you don't get on the plane for that.
Absolutely not. All right, Patrick. Well, this has been fun. I appreciate you joining me. It's nice to do this throwback. Hopefully, we'll do it again sometime. Hell, maybe if Texas wins, we'll get back on next week or something. We'll just have to see how it goes. But thank you everybody for joining us for this edition, a special edition of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, rate everything. And in honor of Patrick, I'm going to say be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we will see you back here again on Monday for another episode of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast.